All right, folks, we have a strange and counterintuitive phenomenon that's been happening over the past few years, and someone's got to talk about it. The Salesforce administrator job path is going extinct. And I know this is a big thing to say, and it's a topic I'm hesitant to talk about because a lot of people won't be happy with this video. And this video has the potential to make people really question their career decisions, so I got to be careful. But regardless, it's something I have to talk about, and I got to give it to you straight. There are fewer and fewer Salesforce administrator jobs in the market. I've noticed this trend over the past 3 years or so, and I'm not saying that companies are running away from Salesforce onto competitors. The demand for Salesforce as a product is actually at an all-time high. But what I am saying though is the proportion of Salesforce jobs that go to Salesforce administrators is going down. 5 to 10 years ago, half of all Salesforce jobs or more went to administrators, and nowadays that number might be 20% or less. Don't even take my word for it. Just go on LinkedIn and search for Salesforce administrator jobs. Sure, there are plenty of results, but you start actually reading the job descriptions and you'll see that they're not admin focused at all. I mean, look at how many of these jobs have developer in the title. And if you actually read the job descriptions of these admin positions, you'll find they actually ask for development experience and in many cases, computer science degrees. Then you go back on LinkedIn and you search for Salesforce developer jobs. Not only are you going to see double the results, but each result is truly a developer position. There are no admin positions accidentally included here or mislabeled. And all the above also applies if you search for Salesforce architect positions as well. Pair all this up with the fact that there is a tsunami of people jumping into the industry. In 10 years, I've never seen so many people transitioning into Salesforce, specifically to become Salesforce administrators. And you've got a volcano about to explode here. Bad things might happen to good people. So, what the heck is going on here? Why is this happening? And what can you do about it? I'm going to share with you all my thoughts on this, but first, a word from our sponsors. Now, I've personally done a lot of questionable things in my production Salesforce orgs, some of them on implementations for multi-billion-dollar sales teams, so this ad is actually therapeutic for me. Every admin, developer, or consultant should read orgconfessions.com. There are now over 1,000 anonymous org horror stories, but this is probably my favorite. Number 707. I deleted one custom field that blew up 40 plus reports, 3 dashboards, and 2 weeks of my life. We've all been there. Changing metadata is so risky until now. Elements.cloud will sync your org and build a metadata dictionary with automated documentation, impact and dependency analysis, plus a ton of other cool stuff. So visit elements.cloud/SFDC99. Check it out. I've read all 1,000 horror stories myself as therapy. All right, back to the main content here. The first question we got to ask ourselves is, why is the Salesforce administrator job path going extinct? This phenomenon probably sounds counterintuitive to most people, especially most people not seasoned into the industry, because Lightning has made administrators more powerful than ever. I mean, we've got App Builder, we've got flows, we've got Process Builder, dynamic layouts, so many things that admins could only dream of years ago. Any sane person would have assumed that admins would actually steal market share from developers in the Lightning era, but that's just not the case. Something more unpredictable happened instead. And that is that companies are getting more ambitious with what they're doing in their Salesforce orgs now. Back in the day, Salesforce was just this glorified spreadsheet. You input data in and you come back and read it later. But now in the Lightning era, that's not enough for most Salesforce orgs. Today, companies want so much more out of their CRM. Everything has got to integrate into it. Data from Salesforce has to integrate out. People need their ultra custom UIs, and now Salesforce orgs need to run some really complicated, specialized logic for your business processes. And then your boss goes to Dreamforce and starts asking, why can't we have all this stuff in our org too? And all of it, of course, requires heavy, heavy code. And I see this pattern repeating itself in orgs of all sizes. Let's start with your smaller Salesforce orgs. Maybe those with less than 200 users who have hacked together random various admins from across the company and now want to get serious and hire their first real Salesforce focused employee. Are they going to hire an admin or developer for this position? Let's say they hire an admin. So the pros of this are you're probably going to get someone with stronger people skills and you're going to pay 30% less than you would if you hired a developer. On the flip side though, this admin is not going to be able to customize your org as much as you need them to, and your company doesn't have the Salesforce expertise to gauge how much an admin can do versus a developer. And while the stronger people skills of an admin might sound good on paper, your team probably already has people skills within it, and you're more likely to need technical skills instead. And so if you're the hiring manager, you're going to play it safe and want to get someone with at least a little bit of development skills because you might never get another Salesforce headcount and you got to make this one count. Hence why so many admin positions ask for developer skills. And yes, this means the concept of solo admins is unfortunately going away. Let's take a look inside the hiring practices of the other end of the spectrum. I'm talking about larger enterprise-grade Salesforce teams with 5,000 users or more. These are companies with entire teams and sub-teams of Salesforce professionals. So the larger a Salesforce org is, the more dependent they are on code. There are many reasons for this, but it basically boils down to two truths. For one, large orgs need very fine-grained control over their org. These are orgs with very important and complex business logic that's likely to hit various Salesforce limits. And you can't just trust your business to run on inefficient, uncontrollable technology like Process Builder or Flow, because if you run into issues with them, you're going to have to rely on Salesforce support to fix them, and then you're really screwed. The other reason large Salesforce orgs rely on code is because they likely already have a ton of legacy processes built on code. And you know how that goes. No one's ever going to really get rid of technical debt, so they're just going to hire more and more programmers to manage all this stuff. So David, if both smaller and larger companies are hiring devs and not admins, what role does an admin actually fill? It's a good question, and it's something I think about a lot. I mean, if I had a team, for what purpose would I hire admins? The trend I'm seeing these days is to hire admins just for the most tedious of jobs. Things like creating new users, updating permissions, uploading data, and for anything that's even remotely technical, give it to the developers instead, even if it doesn't require code. And this actually makes some sense. A developer generally can do everything an admin can. And if they can't, they can learn. I mean, learning how to build a process builder is a lot easier than learning to code, for example. And who can make a better analysis of whether to build something with code or not than a developer? A developer at least knows both sides of the equation, and an admin doesn't. And what about all the people skills of admins? Well, to be honest, it's somewhat unfair to generalize developers and say they have worse people skills than admins, but let's say this is true. And you know what? It probably is. Well, do you really need to hire an admin to get people skills? I mean, why not just hire a generalist with people skills and let them work in between stakeholders and Salesforce developers? What's the point of a Salesforce specific admin with people skills when you can hire a generalist with even better people skills who's worked with multiple technologies, including those you probably integrate with? You combine all the above and you start to see that there doesn't really seem to be a strong niche for admins in the industry long term. And if I look just at the companies I'm interested in, there's probably 10 to 20 developer jobs open for every one Salesforce admin position. And since I work in the high-tech industry, which is probably a few years ahead of the rest of the world, I think we'll continue to see admin jobs shrinking and shrinking. So let's say you're a Salesforce admin, or even worse, an aspiring Salesforce admin, and you're watching this video and starting to get nervous about your long-term career prospects. First thing I tell you is, yes, you should be very nervous. There are more admins in the industry today, and there are by far more people trying to become admins than developers. So we have a massive supply of admins and a shrinking demand for them, which is the worst possible scenario. You need to plan your strategy now. My recommendation is to differentiate yourself as much as possible from the masses of admins. You need to have stellar skills that make you stand out from everyone else, and I think there are 3 practical paths here to do so. The first path is the people skills route. If you naturally have people skills, then this is the route you want to take. You basically want to double down on your people skills and become a Salesforce consultant. It's a lucrative job path that lets you stay in the industry as an admin without getting too deep into the technology. This is option number 1. Option number 2 is the jack of all trades and learn the breadth of Salesforce technologies path. Not only the admin stuff, but also Marketing Cloud, CPQ, Field Service Lightning, Analytics, and so on. Learn the wealth of non-coding technologies in the Salesforce world and hope to join companies that use multiple Salesforce products. Make sure to get all the proper certifications too. Final option is you learn to code. And I always say anyone can do it because I've seen people from all the worst possible backgrounds successfully learn to code. And you don't even need to go all in, just learn enough code so you can apply to the hybrid Salesforce admin developer jobs that are in demand today. And know that I teach code, so I may be biased here, but do your own research. And if this path sounds interesting to you, then see my recommendations on how to learn to code below. So there you have it. That's my take on the industry today. If you've watched this far and you find this kind of deep analysis of the Salesforce world interesting, consider subscribing and giving me a like. Hope this was thought-provoking and hope to see you next time. Cheers.